InShalla and Ashe. Blessings to you, my energetic beings. It is I, once again, Tonya D, and welcome back to the Daily Snippet. Today I'm your host, a practicing holistic Sha'medium and subtle energetic surgeon. I love to merge the indigenous technologies with the subtle energies, the elements, and the elemental beings, and really so much more. But my intention is really to merge the indigenous with the subtle realms to assist you in navigating your prime directive. Just reintroducing you to and through the being that resides within you. And so, just welcome to my virtual medicine room. So as we prepare the threads for this upcoming season, what has been coined the new year, 2022, counting down to the final hours, be sure to check out Meet Me for Coffee with Mary Shirtliff. We're going to talk about the Chinese New Year and the blessings out in the forecast. But if you haven't already, please be kind and do subscribe to my YouTube channel, Tonya D. Hit the bell button so you're notified. And also, if you don't mind, like the video so the YouTube algorithm kind of echoes it out to suggest me to other like-minded users out in the galactic universe. But the energy of today is actually one of my favorites. In the season of Capricorn, our third eye is online for the entire season, but we get some added juice depending on the day. So this is merging with the third eye. For example, today's juice or extra sauce comes in through the crown and into or through the third eye, along with the portal. So we have some super juice today. It's as if the galactic core processor is trying to send us the memo with some kind of distinction to actually calibrate that. It's like spiritual equity. It's the pineal gland and the pituitary or the pineal. They're kind of juicing things up. So, have you started the process or feeling the energy changing as we're kind of entering into the year of the tiger? It's already adding some spice, that ingredient, to the mix as well. So it's like, what in your sacred space is calling, and what are you going to answer the call, or are you going to answer the call? So we have Jupiter, which is super spicy. The benevolent god is entering Pisces today for its journey around the sun as well. So the dish is super delicious as well. So I would see where Jupiter is in your natal chart and also where it's transiting now to see where you're going to have that super galactic star grid sauce with all of that. But in the elemental realm, ding dong, there we go. I'm getting better, right? But in the elemental realm, we have a young metal dog of a day, a Geng Xu. Say that 5 times. Geng Xu. I kind of like it. But yang metal. Yang metal is unrefined metal energy. It's abrupt. It's kind of scratchy. It's a crystal that hasn't been refined. I don't have one on my desk here. I would show you. But you get the gist. So those are like decision makers, they're managers, but we have a lot of yang or metal energy. We have a yang metal on the month right next door. So a heavenly stem of a friend, opposed to the yin metal on the year, which is kind of like a distant enemy or a sibling rivalry. Then we have fire in storage in the day of the dog. There's no nature or wood at all. That'll come in an hour, of course, the hour. So it might feel as if we're going inward for some insight to shift or change or transform. That's needed for growth and ascension. So fire would be nice to add to the metal, that unrefined metal. But the dog, the energy of a young metal dog, I would say it's a white dog or a gray dog, maybe a bit inhibited or connected, searching for connectedness. That's kind of the energy of today, having the ability to connect with another, either in this world or in the other realms, whether it be in a sexual way or one-to-one relationship or in a virtual hall or reality studio, just full of people when you're being authentic and speaking your truth. Like public speaking is kind of the frequency of that. But just having a sense of refinement of being apart from the crowd, like separate, apart. So these are people that draw back and they're not really readily ready to like jump in and really get their feet muddy. or their nails for that matter. So just having an element of intimacy that is never really bridged, pressed by more forceful individuals. These people get quiet. They pull back. They feel uncomfortable when people get too intimate and move into their space way too quickly. So these are people who actually just love animals, in particular dogs. So comment if you're born in the year of the dog or the month or the hour of the dog. The hour is between 7 and 9 p.m. But the quest for this energy of the dog, the quest is intimacy, sexual intimacy. It runs the pathway of the pericardium or the circulation sex meridian. So there's a frequency there. So whenever we find ourselves being more modest or withdrawn, this is where we forge in the fire this energy, this intimacy. Whether it's in front of a crowd, being intimate with the crowd, you know, being authentic as well, or even in a personal relationship. So being that our telepathy channel is open, our higher self, our psychic spider senses, intuition, and all the other worldly juice, being in the blue pill isn't going to work. You want the blue or the red. So go into that spiritual hut and meditate and reflect. Go to your altar, your personal shrine. Anything that's part of our subconscious programming is going to kind of bubble up, coming to the surface. So we might be like on shaky bones or scattered ground. Maybe things that you have stuffed under the rug are coming up. Things that you might have repressed in your container, triggers, generally the otherworldly kind, or childlike wonder that you haven't explored. So being able to see what's brewing below the surface, the best thing to do is to be self-compassionate to yourself, forging through to forgiveness, the magic on the other side of the adversity sometimes. There's always this deeper truth of a spiritual nature or a revelation that gets revealed in a way or reveled in sometimes. But on the exciting side of things, our intuition might just kind of surge in, surge through, and give us some galactic hits of insight, giving us a place of confirmation to kind of the path that we want to thread upon, leaving that inner critic elsewhere and easing up on the reins. So just be more self-loving and compassionate. I think a lot of people need to be more compassionate to themselves. Literally add that ingredient of compassion throughout the day, being in a sacred space of observation while our subconscious kind of reveals something to us or our intuition gives us an otherworldly kind of hit. So it's like, what's the lesson in the story? So our mind usually is the energetic hiccup to the pursuit. Our intuition knows. It's just that we get caught up in the narrative. Usually it's all that logical stuff instead of the creative, otherworldly things, insights. So, what could you inspire yourself to be or more of, or pour more love in your chalice for change? What could you do for yourself first? So it's like looking in this cosmic galactic mirror and reflecting on yourself and the threads of your path, the journey that you're currently on, the insight that comes in. It's kind of moving otherworldly in the support to move us forward, galactic forward. So it's like being forgiving, unconditional loving, like a dog, and also look to and through yourself through the eyes of God universe, the eye of God. Are you recalibrating your spiritual acumen? Or, I know I have been for quite a while, and I still am, forgiving the past so we can bring in the future with galactic loving arms. It's like that comforter in the sky, galactic hugs. So we are moving through some galactic thread lines, we have been for a while, that are deep within our subconscious or our energetic system, the subtle realms. So within the rings of a tree, say, we're just like nature in a variety of ways. The voices of the other world, that's a kickoff. It's coming soon. It's kind of like a branch off of Uncover Secrets of the Other World. Something otherworldly is definitely on the horizon. But being that we are like an element ourselves, all of us, we all have an elemental nature somewhere. We all have elemental fire, and we all have elemental water and metal and star, and we all have this galactic juice. But I'm going to use an analogy of a tree. Being like we are like a tree, we are transforming, we change every year. So we have this fluidity of time and space. Our consciousness, our awareness is expanding, and it kind of ebbs and flows, really, like the waves, threads of streams. But it adds these little rings, if you will, to a tree. And the reason I'm bringing up trees is my entire village, my wall is taken down. But the trees, I think about the trees, but the base of the tree trunk, the trunk of the tree. So we're just like a tree, and we expand our awareness consciously every year, actually every month. Sometimes if you want to get to the nanos, every time the moon shifts a degree in the sign. We do this at the same time, similar to a tree. Sometimes we need an arborist, we need a manicurist as well. Just kidding, but yes, we do need to also trim things up, right? So if there's a disruption in our force, maybe for a tree, that would be like a drought or somebody just hacking off a limb. But energetically, a scientist can actually look at the tree and just notice and be like, oh, wow, look at this. And you look in and there's the ring of the tree, and they see in the 7th ring or the 7th year, they notice that the line in the trunk is really thin. It's got a thin ring. So energetically, we're very similar in our innate nature to the same frequencies. And you might be going, what is she talking about? So, for example, if you at the age of 7 experienced a traumatic experience, this creates a little energetic hiccup, a little system of debris in that ring, like a bubble. It's a trauma bubble. So you might be able to see it in your third eye, or feel the pain in your pain body or your emotional field. So we get lots of cool insights the body really kind of gives us if we really listen to the memo. But it creates this tiny energetic bubble, a trauma bubble, in that ring of our subconsciousness. So the bubble prevents our soul from operating in a smooth galactic fashion, because we're bubbling, which joy bubbles are great, different kind of bubble. But it's like having spiritual debris in our tree trunk. So in this case, it would be in the body, the energy body, and the physical. So it's a process to rid our energy body of the subtle energetic hiccups that frame us, that structure us. So to get them out of the center of our beingness, in this case, the tree, this year has been a year of reconciliation and clarity and finding our inner peace and spreading that out into the galactic core, out into the universe, being the waters, its emotion as well, the ancestral realm, just releasing the awareness of these rings, these energetic hiccups, which is the tree, if you will, the wisdom of the tree, the ancients, the cosmic field, etc. So we've been immersed in a year of beaconing and becoming aware of all of these inner rings inside of us, just being hyper aware of our shadows that actually bring light to the adversity. Cowrie shell divinations, it's the energy in the roll, shows the indigenous reckoning or the adversity. That's actually a blessing of kind of what happened. We have to just look through it with different eyes. So we can have this realization of, oh, I have this ring that is thin or damaged, or whether it's 4 or 7 or 2 or whatever. There's different aspects of our soul's story and areas where we've been upset. These are aspects that a lot of us just shove under the rug and didn't really address or bring to the table, to the forefront, but they still can feel inside of us, inside there, and they still get to us. That's what a trigger is, right? A growth period. So when something flows towards us, the conscious streams, and the outer bark or the outer rim of ourselves kind of starts to get a chip off or a flip out, chip off the old block, that's the inner ring inside of us below the bark, if you will. And we've spent a lot of time kind of having this conversation in the realms of our subconscious self, which is those inner rings. And every time we add an outer ring through time and space, these inner rings become kind of unaware. We forget about them because they're just floating in our subconscious, little beacons, but they become under our threads are conscious threadings, under that awareness. So they're filtering and operating in this realm all the time. So it's really galactic. The life of a tree, the tree of life, connected to other trees through that system that's unseen in the roots. So this goes on and on and on and on, and it spreads all these messages through this unseen system, the bark. So that's just a slice of the thicket in the realm of these inner rings. So we actually had a slice of it kind of percolate in March. Neptune, the reason I bring this up is Neptune is the barrier of the rings, the inner rings, the realm of them. So we started to become, or to come into the rings of awareness, and we're awakening to our tree of life, the inner insight, the energetic hiccup that started in actually 2012 when Neptune moved into its home sign, the oceanic galactic sauce, if you will, the clouds, the streams into those galactic waves and the oceanic waves. That's kind of how I see Neptune. But I feel like we are ants on the planet, really a thing. But this was the beginning when we started this galactic core ring of insight. Now that we are here, and we might understand it, but here we are. They're trauma bubbles, those rings, the damage. So we all kind of started having these energetic hiccups and these burps, energetic burps, going inward for our journey to see the light in the shadows, in the darkness, those ripples and those waves. Maybe we were shaming and blaming self or others or situations, events. But it's in the eye of the beholder, right? Really, that's where the magic is in the tragedy that we didn't realize or pay much attention to. These energetic hiccups that were literally making us feel crazy or go off grid. So it's driving the ship literally into the iceberg. It's like Titanic, galactic. You know, the Titanic has the 3 floors, but it's all the process of the tree, for example. So we live in the bark of our tree and the outer realms. We don't really pay attention to the thinner rings inside of us, the bubbles. So this is all kind of burping up. The bark is coming off and we're shedding some serious skin, if you will. So I love this because it really is awesome. And of course, I have an affinity and a love relationship with trees. That's totally galactic, otherworldly. It's similar to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in a way, but it's a tree. But I am at this place where the hyper spidey sensors are activated in this galactic starship kind of force. But Neptune, the god, has been awakening our core processor, all of our rings in these inner rings, now that it's at the 20th degree, which it's taken since 2012 to get to this time and space, which for me is galactic, super juicy, because I have a large amount of 20s in my chart cosmically, the realm between our inner core and the outer core processor, or the realms between worlds. So we have been having an elliptical switch turned on, creating kind of this hypergate, a wormhole in our core processor. And then, you know, if you watch The Matrix Resurrection, that kind of came out at this galactic time as well. You know, watch that 5 times. You're going to get different insight every time. So with that, we have this core processor showing us these rings of insight, all of them. The light is on, the star grid's activated, our soul's directive and our prime directive. So we're seeing this galactic picture from the other world. And as we're seeing these rings and these bubbles, we then see this galactic mapping, the fractals, the star grid, from time and space, or in space and time. So these energetic hiccups through the rings of time are waking us up. This is a thing right now. So the processor of this awareness, the galactic processor, and we're going to move forward or stay in the field of cutting cords from timelines past, or this one, the old wounds, the old traumas, the old pains, you know. So do you want to release the bubbles out of the rims or the rings of the tree? Or do you want to just leave them in the bark? So each season brings the birth of a new ring as well. So we have the season of the year, and then we got a new birth of a new ring with the beginning of a year. So it's just this galactic ebb and flow. We have a hidden ring. You could have a shadow ring. but it's just how all these threads are all connected and how they all come together. So the universe is doing this cosmic cleanse of all the debris. So we see ourselves with new eyes when we look into the mirror. So whatever's bubbling up through the threads for you, it's time to see yourself through the eyes of the Creator, being creative, so that we don't see ourselves as damaged or infested or whatever thing or way that you see yourself as. So this is the space of these trauma bubbles, right? Going through the rings out of our core and out into the galaxy, allowing Creator, the core of our light star, to recalibrate and make friends with the enemy. Sometimes it is ourselves, right? Oftentimes, more than not, we are our worst enemy. But just some juice for the day. That was just some insight. I really haven't looked at the herb category. I'm going to go down that little space. So yeah, you're going to have some cosmic hiccups, otherworldly. Don't, just realize you're not crazy. But the cards of the day, the first up, I have the hummingbird. And who doesn't love hummingbirds, really? They're these great little journeyers. They migrate all over the world. I actually have some hummingbirds nests in my willow tree. They're super cute, but they share all their juice. They share all their nectar. They're these territorial, fiercely creative, just little beings, and they literally protect their homes. The village in my willow tree, get close to them and they just come out. Not that they're fighting. I think they're first curious, but they also teach us to be gentle with ourselves and to protect our sacred space, our personal space, just inviting us to really embark on our own epic quest and to go on a quest and just, go past the old pile of pains and hurts and toxic debris and really head for the flowers, go for the juice, get the nectar, and learn to trust the calling that we're going to hear with this energy today, with our intuition, our crown open, yes, and our third eye, our insight, what we might see, vision center. It might just be a little subtle, could be a little soft, but the buzzing, I have this weird connection with little beings, I'm telling you, but hummingbirds buzz in a way where they can shift a frequency. Sometimes it's the sound of our own frequency buzzing, but they kind of make us aware of that, just preparing us to go on a new galactic adventure, looking through the veil, through the timelines, I guess, through a new story even. So this isn't a time to kind of let just whatever you think's gone wrong, just let it go. We don't need the Hatfields and the McCoys anymore, right? Just trust in the moment, the purity of it, and take an action that might seem otherworldly or radical in a way, and trust that success, whatever that looks like for you, is going to be there. Just see it visually. Believe it first. Believe it. Seeing it will come later. Believe first. Even if we need to face a test, a challenge, an adversity to kind of get to our destination, those again are energetic hiccups. They're generally just opportunities really to make sure that what we're going after is our heart's desire, right? Actually. So just know that all's going to be functioning. It's going to be juicy because it really is in the small things, the baby things, the little steps that add to the greater steps, good or bad, doesn't really matter. And then I have, oh, hang on, I got to slide. There we go. I have the moon. And who doesn't love the juicy moon? I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually rings on this card, which I thought was super cool because I found it kind of funny that I talked about the rings of a tree, and now I'm seeing the rings of this card with the moon, the phases of the moon, right? The big juicy galactic center moon there, and then the rings around the moon, right? So you could really kind of look at this kind of like the tree, because the moon does this every month. It's a different phase, a different energy, Being in the season of Capricorn, the moon here is not the same as the season of Cancer, even though it's an opposing force. And even as it goes through all the other signs, there's a different frequency and influence, or the month, because the moon, it's a different frequency of manifesting as well. And it goes from the light to the dark to the light, just kidding. and back again. So it's always ebbing and flowing. It's in a new sign every 20 or it goes through every sign every 28 days. So it hits all of the cosmic astrology signs, all of the seasons each month. So this is this magic, this juiciness in the galactic skies with the stars, and it's got this power, and oh man, it's just got the essence that impacts the earth herself plus us, but it's offering us the moments of emptiness and moments of fullness and darkness, and there's always light on the other side of the waiting where we can be born fresh into a new phase, a birthing. So the essence of water being renewed in clarity and reconciliation and reborn gestation. So the moon has this galactic strong influence, this galactic force, the ebb and the flow of the waters, whether it's the oceans or the streams or just our own beingness. But it's got this same juice, this same power that affects our feelings and our emotions. I'm a reflector in human design, so I love the moon. The mirroring of the moon, the energy just rising from our inner selves or hiding under the rug, into our unconscious realms or whatever. Maybe that's what the rings are actually on the card, is the hidden unconsciousness there. But it's also saying and calling us that we go on this renewal, we go on this journey of purity and clarity, just like the moon does every month. So we can literally get unstuck from the past or a situation, even an event or different aspect in our life. It's all perspective in our day-to-day reality in our world. So we need to kind of make time to be ourselves without any distractions of the modern day world, the TV, the news, the media. It's getting kind of hokey out there. But just have courage to look at the unwanted or parts of ourselves that we haven't given a galactic hug to, aspects of our beingness that we haven't found some clarity and some peace in, and just arrive at a place of peace and just knowing. Just know symbolically, really, the galactic treasure, the core of our own aspect, our juice, the treasures are often hidden deep in our core. And those aspects, really, the darkest parts are the places people generally are most fearful to go to. But yeah, the galactic juicy moon. I love the moon. It's a thing. Oh, okay. So the next card. Sorry, I'm on one today. The middle world, which this is our day-to-day reality. It's really, we have to shift our thought to know it's a playground. Yeah, the treasure is the playground, but it's on this thread. It's in this thread. It's in the present. It's the now. It's the moment. It's where everything is juicy and it's actually happening. So the middle world is created by the future, not only the past. It's more of a future. So it's actually the mirror for our invisible realms. So when things are right in the middle world, whatever that looks like for each of us, the rightness, heaven and earth, the realms between between the yang metal and the dog, heaven and earth, that actually supports the everything. But when they're not right, heaven and earth need to be kind of brought into order cosmically. So the message is not to try to connect or correct and the earth, what needs to be corrected out into the galactic heavens, the core, the processor. So we have resources to support change and transformation on our journeys, whatever we're considering shifting, that at the moment aren't readily available for us at the current thread line. But what it's saying is to ask for help from these invisible realms, from our gatekeepers, our guardians, our helpers, our other worldly friends and ancestor, the upper realms. So it's kind of like a message to find our peace, find our pause for now, and take a breath and wait, so we can find our inner peace and recalibrate our pause and take that breath, cleansing our sacred space, tuning into our in-spirit you, the spirit inside of you, and know that you have a village of love that supports and also surrounds you It's always galactic. It's otherworldly. There's no need for blaming and shaming or any other self-critical word that we come up with, really. So that really is, it's a day to, I would say that I affirm that I am in my galactic core village, my processor, breathing in peace. And on every exhale, I'm releasing the old rings that reside within me. Like, so you're letting all those old rings go, all those trauma bubbles and all that debris, energetic hiccups. So with that, InShalla and Ashe, be sure to check out the show on Sunday. It's going to be all about the Year of the Tiger with Mary Shirtliff. And as always, I'll see you on the other side.